Thank you once again for tuning into this station. It's again Wednesday, and welcome to this program, the North Country Profile. In this program, we visit people from all over the North Country, especially people from Rouse's Point, Champlain, Shazy, and the Moores area. But today we are here in Plattsburgh visiting with Stan Ransom, who is the director of the Essex, Franklin, and Clinton County Library System.
Mm-hmm.
Many people of you know Stan as the director of that library system, but also a lot of people know him as somebody else, as the
Connecticut Peddler.
Connecticut Peddler. So Stan, welcome to the program.
Thanks very much, Ed.
All right.
Very pleased.
I was at the Rotary meeting last couple of weeks ago. It was a morning meeting, and the guest at that meeting was Stan Ransom. I was really surprised and delighted by the program. You know what Stan did? He sang a couple of songs for the members of the Rotary Club of the Plattsburgh Rotary Club. So Stan, in this program, the first couple of minutes, our viewers would like to know a little bit more about you. Just so this time, Stan, give them a little bit of background about yourself, please.
All right. Well, I was born in Winsted, Connecticut, and which is where, of course, the Connecticut Peddlers originated from Connecticut. And having worked around the state in various capacities, I finally came up here in 1974 as director of the library system. And during my career, I've been very much interested in folk music and have been playing and singing folk songs for quite a number of years, about 45, somewhere around there. I play the hammer dulcimer, but also the guitar, and I compose songs about news events of the North Country. There's so many things happening, you wouldn't believe the numbers of things that are happening that really make good material for topical songs describing
and
the
you're
area.
very attuned to the current events in the Plattsburgh and the Rouse's Point area. So at this time, I'm just gonna get away from here and leave everything to Stan, and hopefully that this will be an entertaining and delightful program for you also.
There's one about one of our most famous residents, not on the land, but in Lake Champlain. The Lake Champlain Monster. I call this song Champ. If you're ever in upper New York State, whether to live or to camp, if you watch carefully, perhaps you may see that handsome lake monster called Champ. Here's to our Lake Champlain Monster, the king of the deep and the damp. We'll sing one more chorus to our dinosaurus, that lovable creature named Champ. We see him come out in the springtime, as soon as the lake has unfroze. He gives us a scare, popping up here and there after his long winter doze. So here's to our Lake Champlain Monster, the king of the deep and the damp. We'll sing one more chorus to our dinosaurus, that lovable creature named Champ. Champ is a famous attraction. Oh yes, he sure is a tourist delight. They come up in droves to examine our coves and take pictures by day and by night. Here's to our Lake Champlain Monster, the king of the deep and the damp. We'll sing one more chorus to our dinosaurus, that lovable creature named Champ. The first one to see our dear Champy was that traveler Samuel Champlain. Since he wrote out that line back in 1609, lots of people have seen him again. So here's to our Lake Champlain Monster, the king of the deep and the damp. We'll sing one more chorus to our dinosaurus, that lovable creature named Champ. If you should meet up with dear Champy, now I'll tell you just what to say. Look him straight in the eye and smile and say, "Hi, we're so glad that you've come here to stay." Here's to our Lake Champlain monster, the king of the deep and the damp. We'll sing one more chorus to our dinosaurus, that lovable creature named Champ. There's a fellow named Joseph Zarzinski, a man who is friendly and warm. He's proposing some laws to protect Champ because he is anxious to save him from harm. Here's to our Lake Champlain monster, the king of the deep and the damp. We'll sing one more chorus to our dinosaurus, that lovable creature named Champ. The best place to see our dear Champy is outside the Bullwagga Bay Bar. After having a few, you may even see two, but then don't try to drive in your car. Here's to our Lake Champlain monster, the king of the deep and the damp. We'll sing one more chorus to our dinosaurus, that lovable creature named Champ. That's the story of Lake Champlain's own monster, Champ. Now, the next song I'm going to do is one about the Smithweed Bridge. When I first came up here in 1974, in the summer, all the newspapers were filled with the Smithweed Bridge and the problems they had had with the Delaware and Hudson Railroad. This is called the Smithweed Bridge. When stories are told through the centuries and every home and hall, the saga of the Smithweed Bridge will overtop them all. Oh, the Smithweed Bridge, the Smithweed Bridge is just as we had feared. You got in the way of the D&H and now you've disappeared. The Smithweed Bridge was a pretty little bridge made of iron, steel, and tar, but it wouldn't allow enough room to take the latest railroad car. Oh, the Smithweed Bridge is just as we had feared. You got in the way of the D&H and now you've disappeared. Well, they talked a lot at City Hall about what could be done and how to solve the problem without offending anyone. Oh, the Smithweed Bridge, just as we had feared. You got in the way of the D&H and now you've disappeared. It was in the summer of '74, on a morning clear and bright, that they looked out of the window, but the bridge was not in sight. Oh, the Smithweed Bridge, is just as we had feared. You got in the way of the D&H and now you disappeared. The mayor got on the telephone to the D&H company. What have you done with our Smithweed Bridge? And the manager said, who, me? Oh, the Smithweed Bridge, is just as we had feared. You got in the way of the D&H and now you've disappeared. While the council was still talking and deciding what to say, those engineers from D&H just hauled our bridge away. Oh, the Smithweed Bridge, is just as we had feared. You got in the way of the D&H and now you've disappeared. The Smithweed Bridge. Well, you know, the Smithweed Bridge goes over the railroad trestle down by the Saranac River. And also, the Saranac River is well known for the college students who like to go on those big tubing down the Saranac. Well, back in 1983, there was a boy and a girl on a big tube, and they ran into a little trouble. So this is the story, and it's called Down the Saranac. How pleasant in the springtime, lying on my back, floating on my inner tube down the Saranac. Last month we went out when the stream was high with melted snow. The river caught us in its grasp and would not let us go. How pleasant in the springtime, lying on my back, floating on my inner tube down the Saranac. Our inner tube was overturned and we were tumbled out. We hung on to some willow shrubs and then began to shout. A passerby who heard us called police and firemen. They tried their best to save us, getting wetted to the skin. How pleasant in the springtime, lying on my back, floating on my inner tube down the Saranac. An air base helicopter hovered close above and lowered down a rope to save me and my lady love. How pleasant in the springtime, lying on my back, floating on my inner tube down the Saranac. Don't think that we'll be staying home because we had that scare. We're going back as soon as we can fill our tube with air. How pleasant in the springtime, lying on my back, floating on my inner tube down the Saranac. Well, the Saranac River flows into Lake Champlain, and just about at that point is one of our large buildings, and it's called the Plattsburgh Sewage Plant. This next song is about the Plattsburgh Sewage Plant, which is located at the mouth of the Saranac River. Back in 1971, someone had a great idea. Let's build a sewage treatment plant. 'Twill last us many a year. Others spoke up then and said, but won't it make us smell? The engineers just said, pooh-pooh. Now hear those citizens yell. Oh, what on earth is that awful smell down by the riverside? I think that something large has crawled down there somewhere and died. Almost every day in the city you can hear them rave and rant. Can't someone somewhere somehow fix the Plattsburgh sewage plant? Can't someone somewhere somehow fix the Plattsburgh sewage plant? Our beautiful Cumberland Avenue's called the home of the stinking rich. With all those breathing masks they wear, you can't tell which is which. Our noses hurt and it makes us gag. We're breathing through the mouth, and we hope and pray that the wind won't blow from the north, the east, or the south. What on earth is that awful smell down by the riverside? I think that something large has crawled down there somewhere and died. Almost every day in the city you can hear them rave and rant. Can't someone somewhere somehow fix the Plattsburgh sewage plant? Can't someone somewhere somehow fix the Plattsburgh sewage plant? The mayor's done his very best, and the council members too. The engineers look grim and try another plan or two. Experts come from far and near this matter to discuss. We pay them lots of money, and then they say to us, oh, what on earth is that awful smell down by the riverside? We think that something large has crawled down there somewhere and died. We'd like to help you people, but I'm afraid we can't. It's just impossible to fix the Plattsburgh sewage plant. It's just impossible to fix the Plattsburgh sewage plant. If sometime in a future year I ever start to roam, and I chance upon an awful smell, 'twill remind me of my home. But I can bet no other clime can ever more supplant my feelings of nostalgia for the Plattsburgh sewage plant. Oh, what on earth is that awful smell down by the riverside? I think that something large has crawled down there somewhere and died. Almost every day in the city you can hear them rave and rant. Can't someone somewhere somehow fix the Plattsburgh sewage plant? Can't someone somewhere somehow fix the Plattsburgh sewage plant? Also, we've had a progression of problems with odors in Plattsburgh. And in 1986, we had another problem, and I've written about this in this next song, which is called "The City with a Stereo Smell." You may talk about your cities 1,000 miles from home, of London and Las Vegas, of Tokyo and Rome, of all the cities in this world that you may know so well. None can compare with Plattsburgh and its double-barreled smell. Here's to Plattsburgh, the place we love so well. It will always be remembered for its stereo smell. Back in the 1970s, down by the riverside, they built a sewage treatment plant and opened it with pride. But ever since that moment, as you all remember well, Plattsburgh's been confronted by an overwhelming smell. Here's to Plattsburgh, the place we love so well. It will always be remembered for its stereo smell. Then in 1986, up on Rugar Street, a $15 million plant made history repeat. The citizens of Plattsburgh find it very hard to tell which is worse, the Plattsburgh odor or the compost sewage smell. Here's to Plattsburgh, the place we love so well. Will always be remembered for the stereo smell. What can you do with odors that none of us can stand? Plattsburgh is distinctive upon the other hand. Perhaps if we would advertise upon the radio, the tourists would come flocking for our smells in stereo. Here's to Plattsburgh, the place we love so well. It will always be remembered for its stereo smell. Once again now, here's to Plattsburgh, the place we love so well. It will always be remembered for its stereo smell. Phew. Well, after a while, our city engineer, Mr. Miller, decided that perhaps it would be a good idea if there was some way of locating some of these odors. And so he sent out a call for an odor army. And so I have a song on the Plattsburgh Odor Army. Now the Plattsburgh engineers are recruiting volunteers to conscript an odor army close at hand. When an odor comes their way, they will sniff it night and day, and will win with General Miller in command. Join the Plattsburgh Odor Army. Sniff for odors great and small. There's no need to dig a trench, just identify a stench, and you'll be a Plattsburgh hero to us all. General Miller has decreed that there is an urgent need for volunteers to form a sniffing force. And you only have to tell when you find a sewage smell, so the engineers can track it to its source. Join the Plattsburgh Odor Army. Sniff for odors great and small. There's no need to dig a trench, just identify a stench, and you'll be a Plattsburgh hero to us all. Any age or sex or race, you'll be useful any place. All you need to do is sniff vociferously, but be sure to take a bath so you won't incur the wrath of the folks who think that you're the enemy. Join the Plattsburgh Odor Army. Sniff for odors great and small. There's no need to dig a trench, just identify a stench, and you'll be a Plattsburgh hero to us all. There's another couple of things about the area that I like, and one of these is about the things that we do in the summertime, and particularly picking berries. And so this next song is about picking berries up in Altona. I call it Pickin' Berries. On Altona's rocky plains, I get up before the dawn, heat my coffee up again, and by sunup I'll be gone. Pickin' berries, it's the only thing I like to do. Pickin' berries, all the summer season through. Walking to the berry fields, down the steep and narrow trail, here and there a rocky ledge coaxes music from my pail. Pickin' berries, it's the only thing I like to do. Pickin' berries, all the summer season through. Up ahead a berry bush filled with berries bright and blue. So I set to work and pick berries wet with morning dew. Pickin' berries, it's the only thing I like to do. Pickin' berries, all the summer season through. As I pick, I start to hum, then I break into a song. Other pickers raise their heads, catch the tune, and join along. Pickin' berries, it's the only thing I like to do. Pickin' berries, all the summer season through. Working steady, I can pick 40 quarts or more a day. Often thinking to myself, lots of work for little pay. But it's nice to work outside, arms and faces getting brown. When the berry season ends, we'll be heading back to town. Pickin' berries, it's the only thing I like to do. Pickin' berries, the summer season through. When the winter snows come down, we'll be thinking once again of those pleasant summer months spent upon Altona Plain. Pickin' berries, it's the only thing I like to do. Pickin' berries, all the summer season through. Well, there's been lots of things being grown up in the upper part of Clinton County. And this next song was based upon some happenings in the papers last September in 1988. Yeah, I call this song The Clinton County Farmers. Those Clinton County farmers are working hard each day, raising cows and vegetables, trying to make it pay. Some of them have found a way to make it to the top, because they have discovered a money-making crop. Got some nice irony red, as fresh as it can be. How about some Scioto Select if you're having company? We sell retail or wholesale, or as much as your car can hold. And by the way, we've a special today on some prime Altona gold. Those Clinton County farm stands are trying hard to please, with tubs of marijuana all among the corn and peas. There's pick-me-up containers from bags right up to bales, and we're paying off those mortgages with marijuana sales. Got some nice irony red, as fresh as it can be. How about some Scioto Select if you're having company? We sell retail or wholesale, or as much as your car can hold. And by the way, we've a special today on some prime Altona gold. Now those Now the whole Tri-City area would be prosperous today if the law had not come in and taken all that pot away. If pot is ever legalized, they'll holler, "Geez, I'm crow! Let's get back on the tractors, boys, and get that grass to grow." Got some nice irony red, as fresh as it can be. How about some Scioto Select if you're having company? We sell retail or wholesale or as much as your car can hold. And by the way, we've a special today on some prime Altona Gold. The next song is about the problems they had on the border some years ago in Prohibition days, and this is the title of that song. 'Twas back in Prohibition days, an era known to some. Rum runners came through Plattsburgh to Canada for rum, and when they'd filled their Model A's, they'd cross the line at night. But often at the border, they'd run into a fight. Sometimes the U.S. agents would be waiting in the road to stop and search each auto and confiscate the load. And sometimes rival smugglers would try to cramp their style and wait for them in ambush or chase them many a mile. These smugglers decided then the water route to take and to escape detection by sailing down the lake. When the agents followed them and called for them to halt, they'd throw the whiskey overboard attached to blocks of salt. The salt would make the whiskey sink and leave an empty boat. But when the salt had melted, up popped a wooden float. This marker searched for later, in another day or two, would give them back their whiskey when all pursuit was through. For some of these smugglers it was all a merry lark, but it brought to many others death or danger in the dark. For some these were exciting times with many a jolly tale, but some were killed or wounded and suffered years in jail. In Prohibition times. One of the things in Plattsburgh that people don't know much about anymore, particularly the young people, is the trolley car that used to go all around Plattsburgh. And this trolley car actually went from 1895 to 1929. And when I first came here to Plattsburgh in 1974, they were just tearing up the trolley tracks in front of my house on Broad Street. So here's a story perhaps for the young people to help them understand what things were like when the trolley was running in Plattsburgh. Come and go along with me, it isn't very far. We can go a-riding on the Plattsburgh trolley car. We get on at the station down by the railroad track, for we can ride for 10 cents to Hotel Champlain and back. Come and go along with me, it isn't very far. We can go a-riding on the Plattsburgh trolley car. From Margaret Street we make a stop at Witherell Hotel, up Broad Street then to Beekman and the Normal School as well. Come and go along with me, it isn't very far. We can go a-riding on the Plattsburgh trolley car. The cars are painted green and cream and have a crimson sash. The conductor's name is Joe Perrott. He sports a large mustache. Come and go along with me, it isn't very far. We can go a-riding on the Plattsburgh trolley car. For baseball games and fireworks we ride to Clinton Park. The summer cars are open and we ride them for a lark. Come and go along with me, it isn't very far. We can go a-riding on the Plattsburgh trolley car. The car that makes the final loop is called the skidoo car. If you should miss it, you'll have to walk, even if it's far. Come and go along with me, it isn't very far. We can go a-riding on the Plattsburgh trolley car. The motorman is William Quinn, he hits the trolley gong whenever there is traffic as the trolley rolls along. Come and go along with me, it isn't very far. We can go a-riding on the Plattsburgh trolley car. There used to be, in residence there, Mrs. Frances Hall. Mrs. Frances Hall was called Fanny by her husband, and she was also a homeopathic physician. That is, she made her own medicines out of natural materials and so on. And she created the salve, which was called Fanolin salve, about 1900. It could cure anything, as this song will illustrate. This is called Fanolin salve. No matter what can ail you, from your head right to your toe, just try a little Fanolin and watch your troubles go. So try a box of Fanolin and you will soon agree this is the best of all the cures from any pharmacy. It's made right here in Plattsburgh at the home of Kent the Lord. It only costs a quarter, a price you can afford. So try a box of Fanolin and you will soon agree this is the best of all the cures from any pharmacy. It's good for cuts and bruises and for hair that's falling out. We've many testimonials from people with the gout. It's good for burns and fever sores, and especially for the piles. It widely is available within 100 miles. So try a box of Fanolin and you will soon agree this is the best of all the cures from any pharmacy. There was a man in Beekman Town whom folks all thought was dying. They rubbed his back with Fanolin and now he's feeling fine. So try a box of Fanolin and you will soon agree this is the best of all the cures from any pharmacy. It's made by Mrs. Hall, whose home is right on Lake Champlain. The folks who try her Fanolin come back to buy again. So try a box of Fanolin and you will soon agree this is the best of all the cures from any pharmacy. So if you have the vapors or are sick or feeling poorly, rub on a bit of Fanolin, you'll soon feel better surely. Try a box of Fanolin and you will soon agree this is the best of all the cures of any pharmacy. Over a year ago, on February 22nd to be exact, over a year ago, on February 22nd, an event occurred which took everyone kind of by surprise, including the people who were involved. I read about it in the Press Republican, the story where 23 fishermen and women and children from Vermont were stranded on the ice floe and eventually rescued. The next day, I composed this song during my lunch hour, perfecting it further on in the week. So sometimes the inspiration comes right away. Sometimes, otherwise, it takes a little longer. But this song is called The Lake Champlain Ice Rescue. Ice fishermen who fish on Lake Champlain, come listen to my story ere you go to fish again. Come listen to my story and then a warning take from those who nearly drowned it while fishing on the lake. It was on a sunny winter's day, February 22. A group went fishing from Vermont, a pleasant thing to do. With ice at least 8 inches thick, there was no fear or doubt. The families fished in shanties warm, the children played about. One family heard a cracking sound, and rushing out to view, they saw to their amazement a widening gulf of blue. Others saw their fishing lines a sharper angle make, and realized they were cast adrift across the open lake. This 30-acre ice floe with this group of 23 was floating out across the lake and drifting helplessly. But the moving ice floe had been seen by one man on the land. Paul McDougall raised the alarm that saved this hardy band. The state police in Westport called a helicopter crew. From Vermont and Albany, 2 rescue missions flew. The Vermont Air National Guard arrived and set down on the floe. 2 women and 3 children were the very first to go. The state police from Albany soon hovered into view, and together the 2 aircraft with their precious cargo flew. The chilled survivors landed safe, and not a one was wet. They thanked their rescuers and vowed their help they'd not forget. So when you're fishing on the lake, a warning take from me. Make sure the ice is safe and sound and avoid a tragedy. Oh, listen to my story, oh, listen to my song. Beware of fishing on the lake unless the ice is strong.
Stan Ransom, the Connecticut Peddler, and I hope that you enjoyed watching and listening to his songs. Stan, so how do you get ideas about your songs?
Well, I get them from the way the local events happen, usually from the newspapers. The Press Republican's been very good at giving all the details, and that's what I need so that I can set the scene for the song and write up something about it. Usually I compose the poem first. For instance, a couple of years ago there was a 3-series of articles in the Press Republican about picking berries in Altona, and then it was at that time that I sat down and wrote about the ice, or wrote about the picking berries. And with the ice story, that was came out on the 22nd of February, and the next day I composed this essentially complete on my lunch hour, and then put in a tune, and that was all there was to it. So.
For example, one of your songs, the trolley car, I think you did some research on that before you composed that one.
Yes, I read the story about the Plattsburgh Traction Company, and which a library book, of course, and told all about the history of the Plattsburgh trolley car, which ran from 1895 to 1929, and I particularly wanted young people to know about the fact there were trolleys here, how exciting people found it to ride, and what some of the characteristics were of being on a trolley ride.
In that song you mentioned the Champlain Hotel, which is now the community college.
Clinton Community College.
You also mentioned the Normal School,
which
is now
Plattsburgh State University.
College. Right.
And the Witherell Hotel, which is no longer there. Let's see, in Clinton Park, where people used to go, that was almost down to Bluff Point on the right. I don't think that exists anymore either. Yeah. So there were a number of things that would be known to people taking the trolley, which are no longer there or which have changed.
Right. So in addition to entertaining us, Stan is also giving us a little bit of history about the area. There was a song about the Prohibition days. How did you get your inspiration for that one?
Well, I'd been interested in the Prohibition era because this was a corridor through which many of the bootleggers came up to Canada and back, And one of the bootleggers up in, I think, the Champlain area mentioned in an interview, which I think also in the Press Republican, that he had had trouble with being waylaid by other people who were trying to get his whiskey, or by the agents. So he came down to the normal school and he talked with the science professors about what was it that might be heavy and would sink, but which would also melt very quickly. And, of course, innocently they said, well, how about a big block of salt? Well, of course, this was usually available because farmers put out the salt blocks for the cattle to lick to make more milk and get thirsty and all this sort of thing. So he just took, thanks to the advice of our college professors here, he took these blocks of salt and tied them up and then put a little wooden float on a rope and tied it to the crates of whiskey so he could throw them all overboard. The salt would melt, the float would pop up in a day or so, and then they'd come by at another time when they weren't being chased, get the float, haul up the whiskey, and off they'd go. I thought it was a great story about this area.
Stan has performed around the area. Stan, you've gone to the nursing homes, the hospital, private parties, and several days ago Stan was a visitor, a guest at the meeting of the Village People for the Arts in Rouse's Point.
At the Anchorage.
At the Anchorage. So, Stan, if somebody would like to invite you, let's say, to perform for a group of senior citizens or a private party, how can they get hold of you?
Well, my home phone number is 563-5719. Usually there evenings and weekends. That's
if you weren't ready yet, the number again is
563-5719.
Okay, very good. So if you'd like to invite Stan over for a short performance, for a cup of coffee maybe, call him up. I really had a good time watching and listening to Stan entertain us today. And thank you very much, Stan.
Thank you, Ed. It was a pleasure to be on your program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you all for watching this program. This is called The North Country Profile. My name is Ed Portugal. I hope that you watch this program again next week. Before we go, I'd like to say hello to Med Hard. Med, I hope that you're enjoying your retirement. And thank you to Mr. Calvin Castine for the local programming. Take care, and I'll see you around the North Country.